Halloween's supposed to be fun. Costumes, parties, a little fear you can laugh off when the lights come back on. But that night, the fear didn't stop when the lights went out. I still remember Jake's party, the last one he ever threw. I thought it'd be like every other Halloween. Loud music, bad costumes, too much beer. But something felt off. The kind of off that crawls under your skin and makes the laughter sound wrong. I never thought I'd hear real screaming that night, or realize too late that some masks aren't part of the act. Tonight, we're diving into true Halloween horror stories that actually happened. So, stick close, and keep watching till the end to find out what happened, before it was too late. But before we start, make sure to subscribe or follow so you never miss any new chilling releases. If you're enjoying the content, hit like, drop a comment, and share this video. Let's see how many of you truly love this kind of episodes. Now here's your challenge. One of the stories you're about to hear might not be real. It could be completely made up, or maybe all of them are true. Watch till the end, try to spot the fake, and leave your guess in the comments. And as for last episode's fake story, it was story number 1. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. And now, let's dive into the darkness together. I was 22 years old the night I went to Jake's Halloween party, his last one. Jake had been my best friend in high school, famous for his wild, over-the-top parties. Every October, he transformed his family's 2-story house into a haunted maze that could rival a professional attraction. His parents were always away in New Orleans for their own Halloween festivities, so the place was ours for the night. That year, the entire house looked like something out of a horror film. Fake cobwebs hanging from the ceiling, black lights glowing against torn wallpaper, cardboard hallways painted to look like a decrepit asylum. The air smelled of fog machine mist, cheap beer, and pumpkin-scented candles. It's strange, remembering it now, because Jake died less than a year later. But that night, none of us had any idea what was coming. Upstairs in Jake's room, a small group of us, Mark, Tony, Brian, Joey, and I, passed around a bong while bass-heavy music thudded from downstairs. We laughed, coughed, and talked about stupid things, like how Jake could make a living designing haunted houses. Then, without warning, we heard it. Bang, bang, bang. 3 sharp thuds from downstairs, followed by screaming. Real, panicked screaming. Jake froze, his face drained of color. What the hell was that? He opened the door, but before he could step out, another noise erupted. A woman's shriek that cut off mid-sound, then a man shouting something muffled and furious. "Jake, close the door!" I yelled. He slammed it shut and locked it, his hands shaking. For a moment, he didn't speak. His eyes darted to each of us, wide and wet. Then he whispered, "Hide." We didn't argue. Joey and I dove into the closet, pressing ourselves between hanging costumes. Mark and Tony scrambled under the bed, and Brian squeezed into a storage box. Jake turned off the light, leaving only the faint orange flicker of a candle skull on the dresser. From downstairs, the music stopped. A man's voice barked something, angry, commanding. Then silence. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure whoever was down there could hear it. The air in the closet felt thick and sour, reeking of sweat and latex masks. I could hear Joey's breathing, fast, shallow, and the faint hum of the house settling. Then came footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, climbing the stairs. They stopped just outside the door. The knob twisted once, twice. Then the door rattled violently. "Shit," Joey mouthed. A loud crack split the air. Gunfire. The lock shattered, and the door flew open. Someone stepped inside. Through the thin slats of the closet, I saw a flash of black boots, ripped jeans, and a white mask that caught the candlelight. A vendetta grin stared at the darkness. Jake's voice broke the silence. "Please, man, don't! I'll give you whatever you want." The intruder pointed the gun at him. "Downstairs." Now Jake hesitated, trembling. "I've got money. Now!" His voice was cold, mechanical. The sound of it made my stomach turn. Jake obeyed. His footsteps faded down the stairs, followed by the creak of the floorboards and a door slamming somewhere below. Then came muffled shouts, another gunshot, and a woman's scream. We stayed frozen for what felt like forever. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My legs cramped, and the closet air felt suffocating. When the silence finally came, it was worse than the noise. A minute later, maybe 5, maybe 20, the front door slammed again. Then footsteps rushed up the stairs. The bedroom door creaked open. "It's me," Jake whispered hoarsely. "They're gone." We crawled out one by one, pale and shaking. Downstairs, the house was a nightmare. Broken decorations lay scattered across the floor, and in the middle of the living room, beneath the blacklight glow, lay Jen and Robbie. They'd been shot. I still see them sometimes when I close my eyes. The police came later, lights flashing blue and red against the fake cobwebs. They asked 1,000 questions, but Jake answered most of them. He said there had been 5 intruders, men in fedoras, trench coats, and vendetta masks. They demanded money, valuables, anything they could grab. When Jake couldn't give them what they wanted, they took what they could, and lives too. We never found out who they were. The police had no leads. After that night, Jake was never the same. He stopped answering calls. He dropped out of school, started drinking, and later turned to meth and heroin. One night, months later, I went to see him. His room looked like a ghost of that Halloween party. Dark, silent, cluttered with half-burnt candles and empty bottles. "I keep hearing it," he told me, voice breaking. "That sound, the gunshot. Every time I closed my eyes, he was holding a small glass pipe. His hands were trembling." "You didn't kill them, Jake," I said, but he just shook his head. "It was my house," he whispered. "My party." He died the following July from a heroin overdose. Sometimes, every October, I still drive past his old house. The windows are boarded up now, the paint faded and peeling. But if you stop long enough, when the wind passes through the trees, you can hear it. 3 dull thuds from somewhere inside, like a memory trying to get out. Bang, bang, bang. Halloween night of 2023 is one I'll never forget. I was 22 at the time, working as a community coordinator for local events. Basically the guy who sets up carnivals, family festivals, and charity nights. That particular day had been exhausting. We'd hosted a Halloween fair with games, candy contests, and a kids versus parents dodgeball match that left me sore and drenched in sweat. By the time I got home that evening, all I wanted was a shower, food, and silence. But about an hour later, my phone buzzed. It was my younger sister, Savannah. She was 15 then, and she wanted me to take her and my 11-year-old nephew, Jackson, trick-or-treating. Their parents had bailed, and as usual, I was the fallback cool big brother. I tried to say no, but I could hear the disappointment in her voice. So I changed clothes, drove to my parents' house, and found Savannah in the middle of painting her face white to finish her Raven, from Teen Titans, costume. Jackson was bouncing around in his Sub-Zero outfit, mask and all. They looked awesome. We headed to a nearby neighborhood that always went all out on Halloween. It was packed. Porches glowing orange, fog machines puffing out fake mist, kids running from house to house. People were generous with candy, and everyone seemed in good spirits. One older guy was even grilling hot dogs instead of handing out sweets. He said kids needed real food for once. It was wholesome in a weird way. After a couple hours, the streets started thinning out. Porch lights flicked off one by one. We decided to call it a night and made our way back toward the car, which was parked about 10 minutes away. The air felt different now. Quieter. Colder. That's when I noticed someone standing across the street in a front yard where the house was completely dark. No porch light, no decorations. Just a figure dressed head to toe in black. They were wearing a hooded cloak and something that covered their face entirely. Maybe a mask, maybe fabric. At first I thought it was just another over-the-top costume. But the way they were standing, still, facing us directly, set something off in me. I told Savannah and Jackson quietly, "Stay close. Don't stare, but look across the street." Jackson laughed. Probably someone trying to scare trick-or-treaters. Savannah didn't laugh. She noticed my tone. She knew I sometimes carried my Glock when I was out late, especially when walking around with family. We kept walking, but I could feel that figure's gaze on us. Every few steps I glanced back, still there, not moving. Then, maybe 3 or 4 blocks from the car, I heard it. Heavy footsteps behind us, slow but firm. I turned and froze. It was the same person, now clearly visible under a streetlight. They weren't wearing a cloak anymore. Instead, they had on a black tactical vest, pants tucked into combat boots, and a full spandex-like mask that hid everything. No eyes, no mouth, no skin. Just an anonymous black figure following 3 people down an empty suburban street. My heart started pounding. I told the kids quietly, "Keep walking. Don't look back. Someone's following us." Savannah nodded, gripping Jackson's arm. He still thought I might be joking, but my voice must have convinced him otherwise. We reached the car, and I told them to get in. The figure kept coming, closing the distance. I opened the driver's door but didn't get in. Instead, I pulled my Glock from the backpack and aimed it toward the approaching stranger. "Stop! Why are you following us?" I yelled. They froze, then slowly raised their hands. After a long second, the person lifted their mask off. It was a woman, pale face, maybe mid-30s, emotionless. "I'm an undercover cop," she said flatly. Her voice had this robotic edge. "There was a report of a break-in nearby. I saw you looking at me, assumed you were the suspect. Lower your weapon before I arrest you for threatening an officer." I hesitated. She didn't have a badge, no visible radio or ID. But the last thing I wanted was to traumatize the kids or end up on the wrong end of a misunderstanding. I lowered the gun slightly, but didn't holster it. Her story didn't add up. Why would an undercover cop wear a hooded cloak? Why would she stand in a dark yard staring at people instead of checking a house? So I asked, "If you're undercover, why the tactical gear? Wouldn't that kind of defeat the purpose?" She didn't answer. She just stared at me with this strange, hollow look. Then her mouth curled into the most unsettling smile I've ever seen. "If you didn't have that gun," she said quietly, "this night would have ended a hell of a lot differently for you." Before I could even react, I noticed movement from my peripheral vision. 4 more figures stepped out from between 2 houses, all in black tactical gear, faces covered, walking toward us in formation. "Get in the car!" I yelled. Savannah and Jackson scrambled inside, slamming the doors. I backed up, gun still raised, keeping my eyes on the group. The woman just smiled as I jumped in and sped off. When I looked in the rearview mirror, she was still standing there, motionless, watching us leave. The others didn't follow. The drive back was silent. The kids were pale. I dropped them off at home, checked every corner of the driveway before leaving, then sat in my own car afterward, trying to process what had happened. Why us? The streets had been full earlier. Why follow me, a random guy with 2 kids? 3 days later, I got a text from an unknown number. No message, just a picture. It was my car, parked outside my apartment. The angle made it clear it was taken from nearby. I went straight to the police. They took a report but said there wasn't much they could do unless a direct threat was made. Typical. Out of stubbornness, I went back to that neighborhood a week later. I knocked on the same house's door where I'd first seen the cloaked figure. A middle-aged man answered. He said he'd been home early that night. No break-in, nothing strange. That's when it sank in. The undercover cop story was total bullshit. Whoever they were, they knew where I lived and had my number. Maybe they'd been watching me longer than I realized. Maybe seeing my gun ruined whatever plan they had. For months, I couldn't sleep. I installed cameras, got therapy, and stopped going out after dark. 2 years later, I still think about that night. About how a normal Halloween turned into something that felt like a near miss with pure evil. I don't know who they were or what they wanted, but I'm certain of one thing. Being armed saved us. So if you take anything from this, stay aware, stay prepared. Because sometimes evil doesn't wear a monster mask. Sometimes it wears a tactical one. I grew up in a little Texas town called Shallow Water, just a few miles outside of Lubbock. When I was 19, I worked the night shift at a manufacturing plant called XFAB. Every morning before work, a few of us would grab coffee from this small shop called Hebrews. It's the kind of place where the barista knows everyone's order, and you can smell the donuts from the parking lot. That's where I met Rita. She was funny, had a sharp smile, and didn't seem to mind my awkward attempts at small talk. We exchanged numbers, started texting, and went on a few casual dates through October. By the end of the month, she invited me to a Halloween party near the country club. I didn't have plans, so I threw on a Ghostface costume I'd used a few years earlier and met her there. Everything went fine. Drinking, music, awkward dancing, until Rita came back from the bathroom, looking pale. She told me her ex had shown up. He wasn't supposed to even be in town, but apparently he'd been laid off from an oil rig and decided to crash the party. She warned me that he was the jealous, fight first, talk later type. I didn't want drama, so I told her I'd head out before he noticed me. I slipped down the long gravel driveway, thinking I'd dodged it, until I heard shouting behind me. "Yeah, that's right. Get the hell out of here." I turned just long enough to see her ex, red-faced and wasted, being held back by his friends. I ignored him and started walking down the highway toward town. It was about a 2-hour walk, but I didn't care. About 15 minutes in, Rita texted, "He's pissed. They got kicked out. I think they're looking for you." That was enough to make my stomach drop. I started jogging, still wearing that stupid Ghostface robe flapping behind me. Every car that passed made me tense up. Then one slowed down. I froze, ready for a truck full of drunk idiots. Instead, a silver SUV rolled up beside me. The window came down, and a woman's voice called out, "You need a ride?" She looked like somebody's mom, mid-40s, brown hair tied back, purple sweater, totally normal. I hesitated, then figured being beaten by Rita's ex was worse than taking a ride with a good Samaritan. She said her name was Deborah. She talked like she was used to chatting with strangers, warm but with this faint, hollow edge to her voice. When she asked why I was walking down the highway in costume, I told her the whole story, about Rita, the ex, everything. She laughed lightly and said, "Well, that's what happens when you go chasing after wild girls instead of finding a nice one to settle down with." I laughed it off, said I wasn't ready for all that yet. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. We kept talking, and she mentioned she lived just outside town and was headed that direction. But then, a few minutes later, she turned off the main road, down an old dirt road I didn't recognize. I asked if she was sure this was the right way. She said she just needed to make a quick stop at a friend's place. I didn't think much of it until the road narrowed and trees started closing in on both sides. No houses, no lights, just the crunch of gravel and the hum of the engine. Then she stopped the car. Just like that. No explanation. I asked if something was wrong. She didn't answer. She just reached into her door compartment and pulled out a small handgun. I froze. My brain didn't even process it at first. Then she tossed a black cloth sack at me and said, "Put it over your head." I thought it was a joke, some insane prank. But she wasn't joking. Her voice was flat when she said, "Put it on, or I'll shoot you and tell the police you tried to hurt me." Something about how calm she sounded. That's what terrified me. I put the sack over my head. She started driving again, muttering things under her breath. I couldn't see, but I could hear her voice trembling like she was talking to someone, or something, that wasn't there. "You think I don't see what you are," she whispered. "I know the devil's tricks." After what felt like forever, she stopped again. The air changed. I could smell hay, dust, and oil. A barn. She forced me inside, gun pressed into my back. Then she tied my hands to some cold metal beam and pulled the hood off. The inside was dimly lit, tools hanging from the walls, an old lantern burning on a crate. Deborah's face looked strange in the flickering light, pale and twitchy, eyes unfocused. She said, "You can stop pretending. I know what you are." Before I could speak, I heard a smaller voice from the doorway. A girl, maybe 12. She looked half asleep, wearing pajamas, clutching a stuffed rabbit. Deborah told her, "This man's a demon. We're going to make him show his true face." I begged her to listen, to think. I said my name, told her I worked in town, that she could call anyone. But she just kept praying, louder and louder. her daughter whispering the words after her. Eventually, the girl looked up at me and her lips started trembling. "Mama, he's crying. Demons don't cry." That stopped Deborah cold. She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Confusion, then fear, then something like shame. She muttered, "Lord, forgive me," and turned away. After a few minutes, she came back with the hood again. Her voice was calm now, almost gentle. "I made a mistake," she said. "But you'll stay quiet, won't you? You won't tell anyone what happened tonight, I promised. I would have promised anything." She covered my head, untied me, and led me back to the car. When she took the hood off, we were on a highway near where she'd picked me up. Before driving away, she said, "God bless you. Keep your mouth shut, and he'll bless you too." I walked the rest of the way back to Shallow Water and called the sheriff as soon as I got home. They took my statement, but without proof. No witnesses, no visible injuries. It was her word against mine. According to the cops, she claimed I was drunk and tried to force myself on her after she offered me food at her home. They couldn't even verify her real name. So I dropped it. I was 19, terrified, and just wanted to forget. But sometimes I think about that girl, her daughter, and I wonder how many other mistakes Deborah made before someone didn't walk away. If you've made it to the end of this video, let me know in the comments which story creeped you out the most, and if you could survive only one of them, which one would it be? Don't forget to drop your guess. Which story do you think was the fake one? Also, if you enjoyed the episode, hit super thanks if you're on YouTube, or send us some stars if you're on Facebook to show some love and make your comments stand out. Want to go next level? Get early access to upcoming episodes, exclusive members-only content, and much more by joining our YouTube membership or becoming a Patreon supporter. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's waiting there for you. Don't forget to like, share, and catch up on our previous episodes. And now, stay tuned for the next horror episode.